Jesse Pinkman is the most misread character in Breaking Bad. The surface reading is that he's Walt's sidekick, the chaos to Walt's control, the emotion to Walt's calculation. That reading misses everything. Jesse isn't the comic relief or the liability. Jesse is the only person in the entire show who consistently knows right from wrong. He's the moral center of a story that slowly destroys him for it. Before Walt, Jesse had already made his choices. He dropped out, he cooked, he ran with the wrong people. Nobody would have looked at Jesse Pinkman at 24 and predicted anything good. But Jesse felt what he caused. Walt calculated it. The father-figure dynamic is the engine of their entire relationship. Jesse had a father who gave up on him. Walt appeared at exactly the right moment, brilliant, authoritative, in need of Jesse specifically. For Jesse, that was intoxicating. Someone like Walt choosing him felt like proof that he wasn't what everyone had decided he was. Walt understood this and used it without hesitation. Every time Jesse tried to leave, and he tried repeatedly, Walt pulled the emotional lever he had identified in the first season. You matter. You're my partner, I need you. These weren't lies exactly. They were true in the way that Walt made everything true, accurately, selectively, and entirely in service of what Walt needed in that moment. The first real test of Jesse's moral compass comes with Emilio and Crazy 8. Jesse has never killed anyone. Walt walks him through the chemistry of the first death and then leaves him alone with the second. Jesse spends days feeding Crazy 8, talking to him, building something that feels almost like trust, and then has to make the decision anyway. He makes it, and it breaks something in him that never fully heals. This is the pattern that defines Jesse's arc. He does things he knows are wrong, for reasons he can partially justify, and then carries the weight of them in a way Walt simply doesn't. Walt moves on. Walt files things away under necessary or strategic or unfortunate. Jesse accumulates. Every death, every compromise, every line crossed, Jesse keeps all of it somewhere behind his eyes, and it gets heavier every season. Jane is the clearest example of what Jesse's love costs him. She was the first person who saw Jesse without the performance, who knew what he did and stayed anyway. Their relationship was genuinely equal in a way none of Jesse's other relationships were. Walt watched her die and chose not to act. Jesse never knew. That ignorance is one of the cruelest things the show does, because Jesse's grief for Jane was completely real and completely manipulated at the same time. The plane crash aftermath broke Jesse publicly in a way that made Walt's manipulation easier. He checked into rehab. He did the work, he tried. And then Walt was there on the other side, waiting, with another reason Jesse was needed. The cycle continued, because Walt had engineered the circumstances that made Jesse dependent on it. By season 4, Jesse has become something neither of them expected. He's competent, steady under pressure, capable of doing things that would have been unthinkable in season 1. Walt sees this as development. Jesse experiences it as erosion. Each thing he becomes capable of is something else he's lost. The confidence isn't growth, it's the absence of the part of him that used to refuse. The killing of Gale is the point of no return for Jesse, in a way it never is for Walt. Walt orders it and moves on. Jesse pulls the trigger and is never the same. He spirals into the most self-destructive period of the show, throwing money out of his car, hosting parties that never end, trying to drown something that won't stay underwater. The guilt isn't abstract for Jesse. It has a face, it always has a face. Andrea and Brock represent what Jesse was capable of outside of Walt's world. A relationship that was patient and real. A child he genuinely cared for with no agenda. When Walt poisoned Brock to manipulate Jesse, he didn't just cross a line, he weaponized the one thing Jesse had that was actually his. The confrontation, where Jesse finally turns on Walt, is one of the most earned moments in television. It's not explosive, it's exhausted. Jesse isn't angry in the way you'd expect, he's just done. Done performing the role Walt wrote for him, done absorbing the losses. Done pretending that what Walt calls partnership resembles anything he'd recognize as care. He goes to Hank not out of revenge, but out of the simple need to stop. What happens next is the show's most brutal sequence. Andrea is killed in front of Jesse while he's in captivity, as punishment, as control, as a message. Jesse cannot move, cannot stop it, can only watch. It is the complete elimination of everything that made Jesse's life bearable, done methodically, by people who understand that destroying someone's hope is more effective than destroying the person. He survives it, barely. The basement changes Jesse in a way the show doesn't fully explain, because it doesn't need to. You can see it in how he moves, how he speaks, what he reaches for when he has freedom again. The captivity didn't break him in the simple sense. Jesse had already been broken repeatedly. It stripped away whatever was left of the performance. What comes out of that basement isn't the Jesse from before. It's something quieter and more dangerous and almost entirely inward. His decision to kill Todd instead of running is the most Jesse thing in the finale. Not strategic, not calculated, immediate and physical and personal, the way all of Jesse's most important decisions are. Todd killed Andrea. Todd kept him in a cage. Jesse doesn't make a plan, he acts on something that needed acting on. It's the first fully autonomous thing Jesse does in the entire series. Nobody told him to, nobody needed him to, he just did it. Walt's final act toward Jesse is the most complicated thing the show does. He lies. He tells Jesse that he wants him to shoot him, knowing Jesse won't do what Walt wants once Walt wants it. It's the last manipulation, but it's also the one that gives Jesse something real. Walking away from Walt's death is the first clean exit Jesse has had since the pilot. Walt engineered even the goodbye to be on Walt's terms. Jesse takes it anyway and leaves. The final image of Jesse driving away, screaming, is almost always read as joy. It's more complicated than that. Jesse is free in the most technical sense. No captors, no Walt, no immediate threat. But he's driving toward a life that contains everything he's done and everyone he's lost. The scream isn't pure relief. It's the sound of someone who has been holding something for so long that the release itself is violent. What Jesse represents in Breaking Bad is the cost of proximity to Walter White. Every person in Walt's orbit pays a price, but Jesse pays the most because he was the most present and the most vulnerable. He was the audience surrogate in the early seasons, the person asking the questions we were asking, feeling the discomfort we were feeling. As Walt lost his humanity, Jesse became the place the show stored its conscience. The tragedy of Jesse Pinkman is that he was never going to win. He was too honest for the world Walt built and too compromised for the world he came from. He couldn't go back to being who he was before because that person had done too much. Better Call Saul gives Jesse one scene. He's building a wooden box, patient, careful, present in a way he almost never was during Breaking Bad. It's a small moment, but it shows you who Jesse was underneath everything Walt put him through. Someone capable of making something good with his hands and caring about whether it was done right. The show never forgot who Jesse was. It just made sure we understood what it cost to keep being him. Was Jesse the real protagonist of Breaking Bad all along?